Hello, everyone. Welcome to Our World Today, the news perspective, where we discuss everything about the news in general and what happened this week. So, to give you a little bit of a rundown of what we're doing this week, we are talking about the Bangladeshi protest in Bangladesh that has been going on for several weeks. And then we're talking about how the government is suing Live Nation, a company that sells concert tickets. And then, if we have time, we're going to talk about how nuclear fusion could bring a new source of energy and maybe potentially clean energy. We're going to see about that. So, to start right now, I would like to have you, the members of the discussion, talk a little bit about the protest in Bangladesh because it's been going on for weeks, but we haven't had time to talk about it a little bit. The thing that kind of jumped out at me in the past few weeks is how TikTok has been suppressed there, or like social media hasn't been present in the government, so that we basically didn't have like many information, and basically how the protest is affecting students and how they are facing a lot of police violence. And I would love for you to kind of explain why. I don't know who from Nadia or Sage would feel good to kind of summarize this for the people right now, but just let me know. Nadia.
Yeah, I would love to summarize and love Sage's input on it. She also did research of it. So for the past couple weeks, there have been student protests, especially in the high-ranking colleges, because students there work so hard to get to top-ranking grades and positions in order to get um, suitable jobs and like lock in their jobs. But for many years now, ever since the independence of Bangladesh, there has been a favor for government families and government students to have a selection of those jobs already given to them. Now, that has been going on, but on top of that, the bribery and the corruption that has been going on in the workforce and to approve students for jobs has created such a burden on the students that even though they work so hard to get to a certain point in ranking in their school, they're still not promised a job because of corruption and uh, lottery slots that are allotted for government families and relatives. So the students are very fed up because the economy in Bangladesh is not doing so well. If they don't have a job promised, they basically are very much just like they don't know what else to do. And it's not like that any job in Bangladesh pays the best. Government jobs pay the best that allow for you to be livable. Any other job, you would have to be carrying 3 or 4 jobs just to sustain yourself. So this has come to a point where students have spent years to accomplish a certain rank so that they can get a job and provide for their family. And families have gotten loans and, sold their farms and other examples where now they're at a dead end and they're just in a crisis of how can we provide for ourselves if we're not even allotted a job to provide for ourselves. So this protest has been going on for many years now, but now it's gotten to a point where it's like multiple universities that are well known that students are just like, we're done. We're done here. But what really stood out was the police brutality because of this. And just seeing that and hearing from my family what they are experiencing, it's a feeling of disheartenment because my uncle, my dad, they just came back from Bangladesh, and thankfully they came back right before the biggest protests came. And it's just really sad to see that in their lifetime they achieved independence, and with that independence, they're still struggling with their own people just to be able to live a sustainable life. So that's pretty much the summary of it for right now. There's a conflict between the political parties because one favors the government more than the other. Um, but yeah, I would love to hear Sage's input on that as well.
Yeah. So Sage, do you have anything to add on to what Nadia just said right now?
Yeah, the only thing that was coming to mind because of not knowing too much about Bangladesh and all of its history and background is apparently with the government jobs, like 1/3 of them is a third of government jobs is reserved for the descendants of like war veterans. So like the descendants of anyone who helped fight Pakistan in the War of Independence, you know, which was interesting to hear about because I know that like when the British had political control over the Indian subcontinent, Bangladesh was they called Bangladesh East Pakistan, you know, which is interesting. And then Bangladesh had that War of Independence against Pakistan. And it's like they were like now all of the war veterans and all of their descendants apparently will get this priority of a third of all government jobs. And I was like, man, that is a very, very generous benefit to people who, you know, are just descendants of war veterans. So I was like, it sounds like that's part of the issue, but I think we can talk about this more. But I think deeper down, it's the root issue is like, um, you know, just building and generating like more prosperity.
Right.
Because I was like, well, that's the whole premise of the situation is the only like really good jobs available, it seems like maybe practically are like these government jobs, and a third of them are reserved for these people. But still, I'm like, I think the ultimate solution would be expand lucrative jobs, like you know, just expand lucrative
why
jobs.
aren't there more
Yeah.
jobs that could support just like especially for the like successful
Yeah.
students, but for anybody really.
Yeah, and of course that's like easier said than done, but I, you know, I know that it can be done. So yeah, that's what I felt.
Right. So thank you for that. Like, so for you, like the core upset would be more about, I guess, prosperity and availability of jobs and opportunities, pretty much. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
no, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I feel like it would be, right?
Yeah. So Nadia, it feels like you wanted to say something about that, react to what Sage just said.
Yeah, I feel that like there has been this deep-rooted Asian culture to maintain a well job, like a government job, something that you educated for. And thankfully, there are a lot of the population that knows that they just cannot secure a job. So they have started their own business. But unfortunately, Bangladesh is still in that place where it's frowned upon to start your own business and to, you know, take that risk. Like, why would you take that risk when you can go to school the 4 years, yada, 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 and have a secure job for your family? So thankfully, it's still transitioning, of course. It's a new country, but yeah, I totally agree that there's a huge reliance on the government and educational system. And now the students are seeing like this is a broken system. And I'm really glad that they're protesting, but it's also upsetting to see the violence that is entailing because of that.
Yeah, it's kind of it feels like an overreaction from the government. Like sometimes like we see this violence from governments that are a little bit in over their head or don't know how to proceed with everybody. And we see this in all countries. Like we've seen this year, even in France with New Caledonia over near New Zealand. And I feel like, people are starting to understand, I think in this lifetime, in this generation, I would say, people are starting to understand that not everybody needs to go through the classic um, academic record success to then have a good federal or government job, something that the other generations knew paid well. Because like it's not our reality anymore. First of all, like it's getting overcrowded, obviously. And if all of your descendants are promised like a third of the government jobs, that's a lot. And your, the number of people, inhabitants of your country is still getting to increase. So like, the ratio is not that good. And I understand why it's difficult to change it, like why people haven't looked at it yet. It's only been a few decades since the independence, so that's another question. The thing is, like, it's kind of people of color are very fearful for their children not having enough resources. Or possibilities, opportunities to do well for themselves most of the time. So I would say this is a global phenomenon, and the problem with people of color is that most of the time, a lot of them are pushing if they have the possibility, especially if they're like middle class or upper middle class, they're pushing their kids to do all of this like academic studies. And have the best type of academic record just so that they can feel safe to have like a good future and a good job. And as we're seeing, like it's not always the case. Like it's definitely things are changing. Like being a lawyer right now is not as secure of a job as it used to be like 30 years ago. And I think we need to change with it. And I think we need to kind of adapt to, hey, maybe my kid is good with his hands and maybe he wants to open a business, and or maybe my kid is good in art and he can or she can provide value there that nobody else can. And we need to be okay with that, especially because by allowing by allowing people to open businesses in the country, you're also allowing new wealth to flow in. Like, I feel like what a thing that's not really known and that can work in times of recession and hardships economically is that you can push people towards producing more values. And because they're pushed towards producing more values, obviously, like people feel safer in spending this value overrise. So this is kind of a positive cycle that you're creating. But if you're not investing in like a certain part of your people being like risky enough to open their own businesses, like you're not going to to get there at all. And I feel like a lot of countries around the world, if not all, kind of have this problem and need to understand that. But I don't know about you guys, because I feel like in France we have the same problem, and our countries are definitely not geared towards like encouraging people to have their own businesses and to make their own, even though it's not going through the very like academic normal circuit of life. But like we're kind of missing the point of the fact that we can create value in so many more ways and give back to our countries in so many more ways than just going through college and getting a job, or trying to separate people in terms of like who goes first, like are the rich and wealthy and the ones with the best academic records going first, what about the rest, like things like that, trying to separate people like that. So what do you feel about this? Like, I'm open to seeing like how you feel about this positive cycle of encouraging people into wealth in different ways.
Yeah, I also feel that this is a um, positive point for Bangladesh because it's kind of like a revolution that's happening. Bangladesh has been like a very good hub for business. Their textile and their resources has helped many new businesses just skyrocket. So not only are they fighting for their rights, but they're recognizing and bringing self-awareness to themselves of how they can creatively use the rich resources that Bangladesh has for their own life purpose. And a couple of details that I wanted to mention is that the Bangladesh government, the reason why they allocate a third is so that they can get political votes for the political party that favors like government families getting jobs. And so far, pretty much both parties favor the government. So they definitely push for government families to keep those allocated jobs. So it's simply like political reasons. There's no reason to have that whatsoever. And I get it. Like there has been like a lot of pride when it comes to government families because of the recent independence and Bangladesh being, I think, one of the only nations to fight for their language. So there has been a lot of like even people who are not in the government family give respect to the government families because they're just like, thank you for all that you have done. But now it's come to a point where it's like overwhelming corruption and it's not a respectful thing anymore. It's a, now it's just unequalness, inequality. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Any last words, Sage?
Yeah, I wasn't totally certain about this, but I was also just feeling like that that idea of like trying to allocate limited government jobs to people, based on their ancestry, it's kind of like it's not even sustainable for the country, I would think, economically either, because the thing about it is with a government job, you're I don't really know what these government jobs would be other than like my reference for like what a government job can be in the US. But if it's something having to do with like administering the country or like taking care of the country's internal resources, it's not generating a product or a service that's going to bring in more money. And so if you're paying someone to do something like that that may not generate the most new wealth, then you would have to basically print off a ton of money, give it to people, and then people have all this money, but then what are they going to spend the money on? And so when money supply is outpacing what goods there are, then that creates inflation. So I'd imagine that that would be a problem, but I don't know, because I was kind of like, when government's such a big sector, it's not unhealthy because you've got to, I mean, it is unhealthy because you have all this money supply, but you need to increase production. So there's stuff people will spend that money on. And so this was always going to be a problem, logically speaking. And also, I think it just encourages us all to pursue our life purpose and not, yeah, not go towards something because you're like, oh my God, this is going to make me money. This is going to be secure, this and that. And it's like, no, it's like loving yourself and people and sharing your gift with the world. That's what makes you secure. And yeah, we don't need to like be fixed onto these certain things for that. And it's just like helping people come out of that. And I just noticed I couldn't find many news sources or any that really pointed to that root problem. But I think that that's a cool thing that we can do is like find the root problem, because it's just like, well, they're allocating these government jobs to these people, but a lot of people want them. And that's the only problem. And it's like, no, it's like the issue is deeper than that. Like there's a deeper lesson here. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I was feeling into it and feeling like if Bangladesh can figure out like their like a way to really have a thriving, growing economy, but in a way that honors them, like what's their specialty, that's like that would be um like key, I think, because they have so much to offer, I feel. And yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
might be, yeah. And I agree with Sage. Like, I feel like getting into your life purpose and getting into the root problem, like it's going to solve so many things, especially because like getting into your life purpose is kind of going for production first. And so going for production first avoids the inflation of trying to reinvest capital into a country where production isn't at its best, and just like making it difficult for everybody to even like buy stuff, even though like the country may be richer and wealthier. And I feel like it may be a good example for many people. I don't necessarily know that they would have like a specific um economic branch that they could promote other than textile. Or if it's really just like just allowing people to just do whatever like business they would like, especially with the help of with the help of like social media right now, and the fact that you can literally like, just grow no matter where you are. So yeah, there are all these questions to consider, and I would love it if we would try to engage in economy differently, right? I think that would be nice. Yeah. Anything to add to that, or do you feel like it was a conclusion of this discussion?
Yeah, I did want to add that, like you guys were indicating, this is a long, like a deep-rooted issue that had to do with the corruption in government. And a lot of the income sources comes from immigrants, like families that go out of the country and provide for their families back home. So thankfully, because of the people that go out of the country, they see the world in a different perspective, especially those that come to America. They see that how this nation is being run. So now we have like underneath a lot of families that are like changing up their routine, and we're having this kind of protest revolution going on. So both of them are going on at the same time. So I think this is a very significant time period for Bangladesh to really, get their shit together. But unfortunately, the government and the people in power are those that are continuously recycled and with the same old notions. Those who leave the country don't want to come back and help run it at all, because they're just too much corruption and not favorable for them. So we will see. We will see what will happen. And come out of this, but there's like a lot of growth going as well as a lot of uprooting happening.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like for now we have talked about everything we can about this subject. I'm sure we're going to come back to it, hopefully with change, if the government accepts this change. But let's transition into our new topic. I would like to talk a little bit about how the government, the US government, is suing the company Live Nation. And I would like to explain a little bit about this so that you can understand. It's pretty easy. It's just that there are a lot of components to it. So basically, the first one is that Live Nation basically has a monopoly on the economy of selling tickets for concerts. They have almost every stadium and every non-independent concert halls, not just in the US, but around the world. I feel like they are unable to raise the prices too much, even though the prices still have doubled, tripled, and quadrupled in Europe. Like for example, like I used to be able to go to a concert for a show for 25 euros at the lowest price, and now the lowest price usually is something like 60 euros or more. And basically what happens is that in the US it's way worse. We're talking like 20 times the price that it used to be before Live Nation had the monopoly of this. And I know that Taylor Swift kind of pointed out to it a few years ago, as she does generally with things that are problems in the music industry and the entertainment industry. Seems like it's kind of a side quest general power from her. But basically, Live Nation and Ticketmaster in other countries is having the monopoly of just about anything. And it's not just the US, but I want to concentrate on the US right now. So people are not able to go to concerts because it's too expensive. Literally, like Taylor Swift's fans said that it was cheaper for them to book a ticket, very expensive flight to Paris and buy a concert ticket to go there than go in their city. That's how expensive it is. So basically, like the the tickets that they wanted to buy, they cost thousands, is what they're trying to tell us. And a lot of people are upset with reason because we're kind of taking the place of people in Europe that want to go there. And there are a lot of cultural shocks right now. There are a lot of like unruly people that are upset and they just like kind of fight inside the concerts hall and stadiums because culturally it clashes, and also like people are just like upset that and want to see their favorite artist, but it's so hard to see their favorite artist that they're just like always tense. The other part of this is that the musicians and the artists, they are treated so badly. Like for example, I just saw a video of John Bellion. John Bellion is a musician, but also producer of, well, Jonas Brothers, Taylor Swift, and many others like that. And he said that when he started to be known as an artist for himself, he had a lot of trouble with it. Like he was so upset with Live Nation that he paid his debt, and he even paid like getting out contract fees of like 35% of his debt to Live Nation. So basically, Live Nation contracted the debt. No, he contracted the debt with Live Nation just from his contract of like $1 million at least. So he paid back like $1.3 million at least. And the thing is, like, Live Nation, what they do is that they pay someone like $1 million, let's say, but you have to repay it in full. So every ticket that you're selling, you're not seeing the value of them. So basically, you're not earning money never from the concerts if you are a small artist, and even sometimes when you are a big artist. And the problem even more is that Live Nation is making 4 million from a concert while you're making 1 million that you have to reimburse. So basically, they're selling tickets and they're selling all this merch, food, and drinks to people overpriced just so that they can make even more money. And the other problem is that to contract this debt, like basically at all the concerts, like he said that he had like food and catering that nobody was ever eating. 100 pounds of toilet paper. So basically, the company was like spending money to try to justify this debt on things that weren't necessary. And the worst of all is yet to come, because whenever there was a sale on these tickets, well, basically, the tickets were sold at a very basic price. But the thing is that the artist, like his debt was still the same price. So basically, he was losing money from the sale that Live Nation was doing, but he still had to reimburse it without the money of a normal price available to him or to her. And that's when the US government finally said something. And basically, this is what they say. The complaint filed today in the US District Court of New York alleges that Live Nation Ticketmaster unlawfully exercises its monopoly power in violation of Section 2 of the Sherman Act. Basically, it says that music fans in the United States are deprived of ticketing innovation and forced to use outdated technology, so that's something that is even worse, while paying more for tickets than fans in other countries. At the same time, Live Nation Ticketmaster exercises its power over performers, venues, or independent promoters in ways that harm competition, and it imposes barriers to competition that limit the entry and expansion of its rivals. And yeah, that's about it. So I think it was way more than time that something was done about Live Nation. It's been years since we've realized how unlawful they were, and I think a lot of people, musicians and fans alike, are tired of paying overpriced for very base level or outdated service. And musicians are literally in debt with someone that, does their concerts, organizes their concerts. And the worst of it all is that they don't even organize it, they just like rent a place. So the musician has to pay their technicians and their teams out of pocket as well in order to have like a concert. So yeah, that's just some weird things that Live Nation has done. So how do you guys feel about all the things that were explained and this lawsuit coming up, which may take years, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Does anybody want to say something about it? Yeah, Sage says yes. Not at you, but like, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that Live Nation is evil. That's
Well,
it's evil.
I
And
mean,
I'm glad our
it's-
government like is stepping up. You have to have a boundary with evil, or else it'll just keep going, you know. So I'm glad that there's like a boundary, and yeah, it is a step in the right direction.
yeah.
That's what I want to say. But go ahead.
No, I think you're right. I mean, and when we say that, it means like choosing evil. And then on the unionist website, anything that like diminishes life is considered, yeah, evil. Or you could
Choosing
say
evil. Yeah.
like what could we say instead? Maybe like separation, from love or from God. Like it's not loving because yeah, like you're just trying to like get as much as you can and provide as little as you can and control. So like I don't know what the background on this is, but like they had to have done something to like create this monopoly so that nobody else could come in and say, hey, we're competing with you. We're going to give the fans and the artists a better deal. Now you've got to compete with me. That's
Yeah.
supposed to be the idea of capitalism and how things get regulated.
That's
But
the thing, like even capitalism doesn't exist there because they slowly but surely bought
I,
but all the concert halls. So basically we're saying to artists that if you want to do concert dates and earn money, you have to work with me, otherwise you're done as an artist. And that's the concerts are where the artist does their thing, and that's why so many of them have merch because they knew that they don't gain a lot from Live Nation deals. So it's not, they don't have a choice. That's why it's an unlawful monopoly, and that's why the lawsuit exists.
yeah, because like there's no need for that. And like sometimes like a monopoly would be like a power company. Like if you're not going to have like 5 or 10 different power companies saying we're going to put up our electrical lines all in the same city, right? Then the city would just be chaotic wires. So that's why, and at least in the US, a lot of the time the government, but sometimes private companies own power, right? Systems. But then with this, it's like, why? Like it's just somebody who was opportunistic and just said, I'm just going to jump in here and be a vulture. And it's just like, that's not cool, man. My question too would be like, how could, I mean, I think a lot of the time this is kind of uncharted territory. So things just kind of happen because people notice an opportunity and they grab it. But it's like, why do you need like, why should the ticketing company like own the concert hall, you know? Because like you were saying, like the ticketing company, it doesn't really like contribute anything to the actual setup of the concert, which is the purpose of a concert hall, is to actually facilitate the concert materially.
Yeah.
The ticketing company has nothing to do with that. They're just selling access to it and managing the inflow of people. So I'm like,
Yeah, that's basically the other problem of this is that there were no regulations to them not buying concert halls. So in addition to selling tickets and managing ticket deals, they just bought the concert halls and they also bought the system to manage the tickets from every concert hall. So everything was done internally, and like the problem is like we don't even know or can even start to understand like how that affects like the things that they're doing internally to manage this, because like we have there's nothing visually that can like help us explain the prices, except for the fact that they quite literally own everything. They just like wanted to own everything, and they went for just everything, you know. So maybe that's the answer. Maybe like forcing them to resell the concert halls, like get the places of entertainment in a city back to the locals and having them like completely independent. Or but even then, like we need a system to manage like the ticket prices, because like that's not possible either. But Nadia, you seem to have something to say about this.
It feels so bad that, like, first of all, 10 pounds of toilet paper or 100 pounds of toilet paper, whatever it is, and they're charging for that. But what really feels bad, if I'm like trying to see the root of this, is like charging someone by not giving them a quality service. And like the teachings of union, one thing I love is that you charge someone, but you give above and beyond. Like, so that if someone pays for that service, there's no complaint because they feel that they have been fulfilled in a certain way. So for Live Nation to do that is just not of integrity. And I necessarily like, I feel that it's okay that they did all this, but provide services for the amount that you're charging for above and beyond. And if you can't do that, then you cannot charge these prices. And so I'm glad, of course, that the US is regulating this. But I also feel that we've had this discussion before where musicians are stifled, where they're not fully credited and fully um, paid for their services. And now we have this point where our artists are not able to express themselves because they're not supported financially their to the point that they need to. And that says a lot about us as a collective of like, why are we charging our artists this much for their beautiful work, you know? And I get it. We have millionaires that are artists, like Taylor Swift, I'm sure has more than enough money, but still it says something about creativity and artists and how we treat them.
Mm.
And of course, like if you're a good artist, I don't mind paying $60 for a ticket, more than that. But yeah,
Not
yeah.
10,000. Probably
Yeah,
not 10,000.
and no one will come. No
Yeah,
one that has any capability of paying for that will be able to see their favorite artist
yeah,
and have that experience.
yeah. The worst thing with that is that if 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 an artist isn't filling the concert halls completely, so sold out shows at full price, which is impossible since like Live Nation has sales and sold out shows, it's mental. Like they cannot, they're necessary, they're obligatorily in debt. And so they amass like thousands in debt from every date and shows that they do, or like they're forced to do like 8 months or tour just to survive, which is also mental. And the other charge of this lawsuit is that Live Nation was purposefully, um, quite literally, like financially shooting any competitor that was rising. So they were like sabotaging, actively sabotaging any competition, like normal competition that would arise. And that's something that's so weird. And the thing with Taylor Swift is that she's a millionaire, yes, but the problem is is that still with like selling all of the albums that she has, like she had to fight so many times just to like own the master of some of her own albums and to be paid like in like a minimal way that makes sense on like listening platforms as well. Because like before like the artists and she did it for everybody, which like I don't necessarily like listen to her, but that's something to be accounted for. It's like before like artists would be paid like 0.01 dollar per listen. So if you had like millions of listen, well, good, you earn a few thousand, but if you have like a few hundred listens, that amounts to like $5. And also like right now, like it might be like 35 cents or something, which is a little bit better, I guess, but like we're still not yet there. Like the problem with all of the industry and entertainment right now is that all the platforms through which we have to come through to support our artists, even those are kind of profiting and getting richer and upping their price. And our artists are seeing nothing of that. So I think Nadia was right, and there's a huge thing happening, and there's something big to do in order to get this to be better and to heal this. So Nadia, do you have any idea like what the core maybe like block upset of this is, or do you think like we are already like at our maximum capacity with this lawsuit of getting there, or is there like anything to heal?
I will probably have to sit with that a little bit more, but I did want to ask you, why has the government now decided to do action? Like, what was the thing that broke the camel's back that now the US government is seeing like this is not just monopoly, this is like tyranny.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. First of all, like John Billion and everyone that works with him is amazing. Like another artist that has worked with him and is a phenomenal jazz and funk artist called Clyde Lawrence, spoke before Senate in order to kind of make them understand like the amount of debt that artists went through just for going on tour, even though tour should be like their like gain, like the way they earn money, and try to point a little bit more towards like why this was happening. And from that moment, I think it was maybe like 2, 3 years ago, maybe the beginning of COVID or a little before COVID. So for 4 or 5 years ago, like the government had to do extensive research to understand all of the things that pertain to that. So basically, to be able to ensure that they were very right in the sense that Live Nation was doing monopoly for fans and artists and against competitor by sabotaging them with all of the details that we have today, there had to have had like a lot of study of what went on. And I feel like it's just like the judiciary way, and they did it in the right way. I think props to artists for speaking up, even though it might be like very hurtful to their own businesses. Taylor Swift, John Billion, Clyde Lawrence, and so on and so forth. And props to them to building something like a boundary for all artists. And props to the government for doing such an extensive research about Live Nation as well. But it does take years. It's normal. Like you have to have all the facts and be certain that when you sue a company like that, like you have everything lined up. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It almost feels like Live Nation is like putting creative energy in a box only to monetize it. And this is the old way of doing things. So now we're transitioning into actually valuing creative energy and recognizing how powerful it is. Whereas we're trying to get rid of, well, we are getting rid of that old mentality that you only use your creativity to make up money out of it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I don't even think that they use creative energy. I think like they're just all about money, put simply. Isaiah, did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too about valuing yourself, that's the key. Even it's crazy how that block of not valuing yourself for your creative energy can manifest even if you're a really wealthy artist. That crazy, and it goes to show how you've got to resolve it within. And also another thing too is that if we could bring if we could encourage and bring the same spirit of open-minded inquiry to all issues in our society and economy, that would be awesome. And I think Congress taking on this issue, it's probably an issue that a lot of people agree with is a problem. And it's not as contentious, and it's something that can get Congress like more approval, which they're kind of at a historic low of approval because they don't get anything done because what they do is they're like, all they do is prolong problems and then blame the other side. They're like, the other side wasn't willing to work with me on this, and so you need to vote for me again, and so that we can maybe get this done. And they just keep doing that. And if they reach across the aisle and say, let's do something together, people are like, you betrayed me, you worked with the other side. And this is one of those wonderful issues where everyone agrees this is a problem and we need to find the right solution objectively. And so this could be used as a momentum builder to tackle more issues with that spirit potentially. So I want to find the silver lining in that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I so agree with you. I was thinking the same, like, yeah, it's not going to be like Trump being convicted type of of thing, or like the train union like blocking everything so that they can get their rights like handled and things like that. Things that could like potentially, or abortion, that could potentially like split Congress into two. Like I'm very sure that Congress, senators and representatives, sons and daughters all throughout the United States are very upset that they have to pay so much for so little service for a Taylor Swift concert, a Beyonce concert, a SZA concert, or a Kendrick Lamar concert. And I think everybody is experiencing the same, exactly the same, no matter their taste in music, no matter their race, and no matter their political side. So hopefully, as you say, I'm not sure if this is going to happen, but hopefully that can be a great momentum to working together and learning to work together. And hopefully this can be the new normal for Congress. And thank you for bringing this to light, because I think it's very important that we get something moving. And if we can get something moving in this economy with this inflation so that people can enjoy art better, which is like kind of essential, like art is biologically like ingrained into the human race, like funny fact. We're the only race that kind of has religion and religious staples and art, drawing, music, done since like the beginning of our race, so of our species. So I think that's cool. And I think if we can actually have that for better handled, better managed, I think everyone would be very happy, and you would be surprised like how a happy country can culturally happy country can kind of overturn like the way of life completely. I think we can all agree that culture can definitely bring us together and have better results in terms of like our emotional health as a country. And I think I've seen that with the Olympics this week, and how people were proud of the opening ceremony, even though like the rest of the world like didn't understand it. But um, yeah, I don't know if you agree, guys, but I think it can definitely be like a complete overturn if we take care of ourselves like culturally, really. Yeah. So I guess Nadia wanted to say something.
Yeah, perfect point that you brought up, that valuing ourselves and allowing ourselves to express ourselves is becoming the new world and the new way of treating ourselves. So I'm really glad that this has happened so that the US government can step in and be like, what is going on here? 10 pounds of toilet paper? Are you serious? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there was something that I wanted to say, but I forgot. Like, does anyone have something to say about this? No? No. So, yeah, I don't know.
I feel complete here. I do feel like there's a similarity between the two stories that we've spoken about valuing yourself and another point that we brought up. But yeah, I think that both of them are similar healings.
I agree. Like, there's something that you brought up actually about not valuing money above everything else. I think that's a big lesson for us, like not valuing money and fear that you won't have enough or being greedy about it. Because otherwise you transform into some sort of like authoritarian institution and people are saying like too much, like you're kind of choking me. And that happens with the Bangladeshi government, and that also happens with like Nation, but it's kind of you know, choking down the entertainment industry through it. And I think when you said that about like not valuing money, but actually valuing purpose and really, really knowing where your value lies, it really struck me that I was like, it's funny, it's a government, but it feels exactly like the next topic with Live Nation. I don't know if you agree with that. Sage.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was amazed when you brought that up, Nadia, because I was like, that's crazy how there could be this similarity between these two topics. We didn't plan this, but it kind of just came together like that, I guess, in like divine orchestration beyond us, right? Like with the Bangladesh topic and then like the Live Nation ticketing topic, you're just like, there couldn't be two things more different, but it's like they're so related. It's the same energy. It's like the energy of like separation being presented here is the one where you're like, there's a limited amount of resources outside of me, and I'm just going to try to like monopolize that, right? And that's the same thing with like the government corruption, where they're like, in exchange for votes, essentially, we're going to give you the right to have these jobs. And then with Live Nation being like, well, we're just going to buy the concert halls and then you have to work with us kind of energy. It's like, I need to corner the market and take everything, like everything that's here. And the opposite mentality is like, God is my source, or like the universe or spirit or whatever you want to say, right? Like love is my source, and we all have that within ourselves. It doesn't, the origin is within, it's not outside of ourselves. And we give to ourselves from that source, and we produce value from that source too. And that's what we focus on, because that feels good. Like it feels good to love and to create value. And it really doesn't feel good to try to like scramble for resources outside of you and control and like corner all the resources. It cultivates like negative energy and fear. And I really think that breaking out of that is good for us, but we all have to choose that for ourselves. You can't just be like, oh, government, come take care of this problem. It's like, well, maybe they will, but it's like whack-a-mole. Like you whack one mole and then another one pops up because the spiritual issue is still here. So that's what I had to say about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nada, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I wanted to go on the similar theme and say that it feels like Live Nation and Bangladesh government is the illusion of fear. And we're slowly dissolving that illusion of fear of leaning into Live Nation and being dependent on it, and leaning into the government, being dependent on it. Now it's just like, no, this is a fearful illusion, like a third party that we're dissolving.
I 100% agree. And that's one of the reasons why I am looking forward to next week, because by next week we will have results from the Venezuelan presidential election. And I think a lot of the new generation are looking forward to freeing, as they say, like Venezuela will be free. And so basically, like it's clear that a lot of people don't want the president to govern anymore, and Venezuela has been prone to inflation and authoritarian energy for years now. So if you want to discuss that or know more about that, join us next week for this discussion. And for now, thank you for tuning in live on our Facebook group or on YouTube. If you enjoyed that discussion, definitely like, subscribe, and comment so that we can do more of those. And see you next week.